Monday mornings used to feel like mine. I built this company from a laptop on our kitchen table into 4 floors of glass and steel. 3 years of 16-hour days. 3 years of missed anniversaries, cold coffee, and code that ran through my dreams. Vanessa had the vision. I built the machine that made it real. I walked past Sophie at the front desk, coffee in hand, ready for another ordinary day. "Morning, Daniel," she said, but she didn't look up. I noticed that. I should have noticed more. When I reached my office, the door was already open. Grant Pierce sat behind my desk, feet up on the edge like he was posing for a photo. "Can I help you?" I said. He smiled, slow and easy, like he had all the time in the world. "Actually, I think I'm settling in," he said. "Vanessa didn't mention it?" "Mention what?" Before he could answer, Vanessa walked in, heels clicking, phone in one hand, tablet in the other. She barely glanced at me. "Daniel, good, you're here," she said. "I want to tell you before the team saw it." "Tell me what?" "We're moving Grant into this office. It just makes more sense for now." I felt my stomach drop, but I kept my voice level. "This is my office, Vanessa. I've had it since we opened this building." "I know," she said, still not really looking at me. "But investors are coming through Thursday, and optics matter. Grant's client-facing. You're more behind the scenes." Behind the scenes. That's what she called 3 years of my life. "So you're just moving me out," I said. No conversation. No heads up. "I'm telling you now," she said, like that solved anything. Grant leaned back further in my chair, hands behind his head. "Nothing personal, man," he said. "Just business." I looked at him, then at her. "Nothing personal," I repeated. "Right?" By then, people had noticed. Marcus stood near the server room doorway, arms crossed. Priya had stopped typing. Tom was frozen halfway through pouring water into a mug, eyes darting between me and Vanessa like he was watching a car crash he couldn't stop. Vanessa finally met my eyes, and for a second I thought she might apologize. Instead, she smiled, the same practice smile she used on clients. "We'll figure out a good spot for you by end of day," she said. "Maybe the corner desk near the break room. It's actually got great light." The corner desk, near the break room. "I built this company," I said quietly. "I built this floor." "I know," she said, "and I appreciate everything you've done. But things change, Daniel. We have to think bigger now." Bigger. Without me in the room, apparently. I didn't argue. I didn't raise my voice. I just nodded once, turned, and walked out of what used to be my office, past Grant's smug little grin, past the desk where I used to plan every product this company ever shipped. The hallway felt longer than it ever had before. I could feel every set of eyes on me. Marcus looked like he wanted to say something and knew better than to say it here. Priya's jaw was tight. Tom just looked lost, like he was watching the ground disappear under all of us at once. Nobody spoke. I stood there in the middle of that silent hallway, in the building I helped raise from nothing, completely humiliated by the one person who was supposed to have my back before anyone else's. And in that silence, something inside me went very, very quiet. Not defeated, just done pretending things were fine. Grant Pierce showed up 3 months ago as a consultant. Sharp suits, perfect hair, a voice made for pitch meetings. He talked about synergy and disruption and scaling mindsets, and somehow nobody asked what any of that actually meant. I found Marcus by the coffee machine that afternoon, still shaken from the morning. "You okay?" he asked. "I'm fine," I said. "Just processing." Marcus lowered his voice. "Can I tell you something you're not going to want to hear?" "Go ahead." Grant's been in Vanessa's office almost every night this month, long after everyone leaves. Meetings happen, Marcus. Meetings that end with him presenting your architecture plan to the board like it was his idea. Marcus said, "I sat in that call, Daniel." He used your words. "Your diagrams." I felt my jaw tighten. Maybe she gave him access to review it. Marcus looked at me like I was lying to myself because "I've known you 5 years," he said. "I've never seen you let something like this slide. I'm not letting it slide. I'm choosing my battles." He didn't push further, but the look on his face stayed with me the rest of the day. I told myself it didn't matter. I told myself 3 years of marriage and 3 years of building this company together meant something steady, something no smooth-talking consultant could shake loose. Vanessa and I had survived worse than office politics. We survived the year we almost lost the company. We survived her father's death. We could survive Grant Pierce. That night, I waited for her at the kitchen table, the same table where all of this started. 9 o'clock came and went. Then 10. She walked in at 10:40, phone still in her hand, thumb moving across the screen. "Hey," she said, not looking up. "Long day," I said. Grant had some good ideas about the investor deck. We were refining it. Until 10:40. She finally looked at me, distracted, like she was doing math in her head. "Don't start, Daniel. I'm exhausted. I'm not starting anything." I asked how your day was. She set her bag down, moved past me toward the stairs. "It was fine. Long. I really need to sleep." "Vanessa." She paused on the second step, not turning around. "What? Is everything okay? With us?" For a moment, she didn't answer. The silence sat heavy in the room, colder than anything she could have said. "Why wouldn't it be?" she finally said, still facing away from me. Then she went upstairs, and I sat alone at the table, staring at the wood grain like it might explain what I was feeling. Something small and cold settled into my chest that night. Not proof, not even suspicion, not really. Just a question I couldn't unask. I tried again the next morning, before Vanessa left for work. "Can we talk about the office thing?" I said. She was already checking her phone, half out the door. "Daniel, it's a desk. I moved you to a different desk." "It's not about the desk," I said. "It's about how you did it. In front of everyone." She sighed, the kind of sigh that meant she'd already decided I was overreacting. "I think you're feeling insecure about Grant being here, and that's making you read into things that aren't there." That landed harder than I expected. "I'm not insecure," I said. "I'm telling you it felt disrespectful." "I don't have time for this right now," she said and left. I stood in the kitchen a long time after the door closed. At the office, Priya caught me near the server racks, voice low. "Can I ask you something weird?" she said. "Sure." "Is Grant actually technical?" "Because he told the DevOps team to roll back the database migration yesterday. The one you approved last week." "That makes no sense," I said. "That would break 3 dependent systems." "I know," she said. "Tom tried to explain that to him, and Grant just said, 'Trust the process.'" Tom walked up right as she said it, shaking his head. "I don't even know who I'm supposed to be listening to anymore," he said. "You built this system. He's giving orders about a system he doesn't understand." "I'll handle it," I told him, though I wasn't sure how. That evening, I drove to my mother's house without really deciding to. Ellen opened the door before I even knocked, like she'd been watching for me. "You look like your father did the week before he quit that awful job," she said. "I haven't said anything yet." "You didn't have to," she said. "Sit. Tell me." I told her about the office, about Grant, about the strange loyalty forming around a man who didn't understand the first thing about what he was managing. She listened without interrupting, hands wrapped around her tea. When I finished, she was quiet for a moment. "Let me tell you something," she said. "A person who builds in silence can also walk away in silence. You didn't announce every sacrifice you made for that company. Don't feel like you owe anyone an announcement when you're done giving." "I'm not done," I said. "Not yet," she said. "But you're close. I can see it." I didn't argue with her, because some part of me already knew she was right. Over the next week, the small moments piled up. In a meeting about server costs, Vanessa asked Grant's opinion first, even though it wasn't his area. When I suggested a vendor we'd used for years, she said maybe we should get a fresh perspective and looked at Grant. At the team lunch, someone made a joke about my old whiteboard diagrams being outdated, and Vanessa laughed along with Grant instead of defending the system that still ran everything underneath his shiny new dashboards. None of it was big enough to fight about. All of it was big enough to notice. I kept my mouth shut every time. Pride, maybe, or just tiredness. Some nights I told myself I was being patient. Other nights I knew I was just avoiding a conversation I was scared to have, because some conversations, once started, can't be taken back. I wasn't ready to end anything yet, but I was starting to see exactly how it might end. Sophie found me by the elevators, glancing over her shoulder before she spoke. "I probably shouldn't tell you this," she said. "Tell me what?" "There was a meeting yesterday, restructuring the tech department. You weren't on the invite." I felt my stomach tighten. "Who was there?" "Vanessa, Grant, 2 board members. Grant proposed bringing in his own team. External hires. He called your department, and I quote, legacy overhead. Legacy overhead. 3 years of my life, called overhead. What happened? I asked. She approved a phase transition, Sophie said. Marcus, Priya, Tom. All of them, eventually. Grant said it would be smoother without friction from the old guard. Old guard, I repeated. I'm 34. Sophie winced. I thought you should know before it becomes official, she said. I'm sorry, Daniel. I thanked her and walked back to my desk, the one near the break room, with the great light Vanessa promised me. I sat down slowly, like moving too fast might make the anger catch up with me before I could think straight. I didn't confront her that day. I didn't storm into what used to be my office and demand answers in front of Grant. Every part of me wanted to. Instead, I finished my work, said goodnight to Priya and Tom like nothing had changed, and drove home in complete silence. Marcus called that evening. You heard, he said. It wasn't a question. I heard. And nothing, I said. Not yet. That's not like you. Maybe it should be, I said, and ended the call before he could ask what I meant. At home, I opened my laptop and stared at a blank document for a long time before I started typing. I, Daniel Cole, am resigning from my position, effective immediately. I got that far and stopped. I sat back, reading the sentence over and over. It felt good for about 30 seconds. Then it felt small, like walking away quietly and letting them rewrite the story afterward, letting Grant tell people the old tech lead couldn't handle change. I thought about my mother's words. A person who builds in silence can also walk away in silence. Silence, yes, but not surrender. I deleted the sentence. I thought about Marcus, Priya, and Tom, about to be phased out of something they helped build with their own hands, the same way I was being phased out of my own marriage without a single honest conversation. I thought about Richard Voss, who'd call me twice in the last year asking if I'd ever consider a change, and I'd always said no out of loyalty to a company that clearly didn't feel loyal to me anymore. I closed the resignation letter without saving it. Instead, I opened a new document and started writing something different. Not a farewell, a plan, names, timelines, contacts, questions I needed answered before I made a single move. I didn't feel angry anymore, sitting there in the quiet of my kitchen. I felt something steadier, clearer. For the first time in weeks, I closed my laptop with a calm that didn't come from pretending everything was fine. It came from finally deciding what I was going to do about it. I asked Marcus, Priya, and Tom to meet me at a small coffee shop across town, far from anyone who might report back to Grant. This feels serious, Priya said, sitting down. It is, I said. I need to ask you something, and I need an honest answer. Okay, Tom said, straightening up. If you had the chance to build something real again, somewhere your work actually mattered, would you take it? Marcus leaned forward. Is this about the restructuring? It's about more than that, I said. I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me. I'm asking if you're willing to walk away from politics and favoritism and build something honest instead. Priya and Marcus exchanged a look. Tom just watched me, waiting. Where we even go? Priya asked. I took a breath. Richard Voss has been trying to recruit me for 2 years, I said. Every time, I said no because I felt loyal to this company. He's called again recently. Different offer this time. Richard Voss, Marcus said. As in, our biggest competitor, Richard Voss? The same one who's built half his company on respecting engineers instead of burning them out, I said. He's never once looked at what we do here and called it overhead. Tom's eyes lit up slightly. What kind of offer, he asked. Not just jobs, I said. He mentioned something about a real partnership. Equity. Ownership over what we build, not just a paycheck for building someone else's vision. Priya sat back, processing. You're serious, she said. Completely. What about Vanessa? Marcus asked carefully. This is still her company. This isn't about her, I said. This is about whether the three of you want to keep building something that gets called legacy overhead behind closed doors, or whether you want to build something that actually respects what you bring to the table. Nobody spoke for a moment. I'm in, Tom said quietly. I didn't go to school for 4 years to be told to trust the process by someone who can't read a database schema. Priya nodded slowly. I'm listening, she said. I'm not committing yet, but I'm listening. Marcus studied me for a long moment. You've changed in the last week, he said. I've never seen you move like this. Quiet. Calculated. Maybe I finally learned that being loud doesn't fix anything, I said. Being ready does. That night, I called Richard directly. Daniel Cole, he said, picking up on the second ring. Didn't expect to hear from you so soon. Things have changed on my end, I said. I'm listening. I told him everything, carefully, without emotion clouding the details. The office, the restructuring, the plan to phase out my entire team. Richard was quiet for a moment when I finished. Their loss is going to be a very expensive lesson, he said. Bring your people. I'll build a real division around what you've already created. Equity stake, leadership roles, full autonomy over your systems. No committee has to approve your architecture decisions ever again. That's a serious offer, I said. I've been serious for 2 years, Daniel. I just needed you to be ready. I think I finally am, I said. We talked details for almost an hour. Timelines, contracts, what it would take to bring Marcus, Priya, and Tom over cleanly, without burning bridges we didn't need to burn. I didn't say a word to Vanessa about any of it. She came home that night talking about her restructuring timeline, mapping out which roles Grant's external hires would fill first, completely unaware that the foundation she was planning to rebuild on was already quietly walking out the door. I nodded along, asked a few normal questions, and let her keep planning. For the first time since this all started, I wasn't the one standing in the hallway, feeling the ground shift beneath me. She just didn't know it yet. Vanessa made dinner that night, something she hadn't done in months. Candles, even. For a moment, sitting there, it almost felt like before. Grant thinks we could double our client base by next year, she said, twirling pasta around her fork. He's already talking to 2 new investors. That's ambitious, I said. He just gets it, you know? The vision, the energy. It's refreshing. I kept my face still. Sounds like he's become a big part of your plans, I said. He's become a big part of a lot of things, she said, smiling in a way that used to be reserved for me. I didn't answer that. I just nodded and let her keep talking about board approvals and marketing pushes, about a future she was building that no longer had a place for me in it, though she didn't seem to notice she was saying that out loud. Later, I found Sophie in the parking garage, both of us leaving at the same time. Can I say something honestly? She said. Always. I don't think Vanessa even realizes what's happening to her, Sophie said. Grant compliments everything. Her decisions, her ideas, even her outfits in these little sideways comments. I think she's enjoying being told she's brilliant more than she realizes. That's not love, I said quietly. That's flattery. I know, Sophie said. I just don't think she can tell the difference right now. I drove to my mother's house after that, needing somewhere steady to sit for an hour. You look tired in a different way tonight, Ellen said, handing me tea I didn't ask for. I'm signing the papers tonight, I said. With Richard. She sat across from me, quiet for a moment. How does that feel? Like grief, honestly. Not anger anymore. Just grief. That's how you know you're doing it right, she said. Anger makes people cruel. Grief just makes them honest. Walking away isn't revenge, Daniel. It's self-respect. Don't let anger poison something that should be done with dignity. I won't, I said. Promise me, she said. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happens after, you do this with your head high, not your fist swinging. I promise, I said. I got home before Vanessa finished her shower, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened my email. Richard's final agreement sat there, waiting for one signature. I read it one more time. Equity. Leadership. A real seat at a real table. Everything this company used to promise me before it decided I was overhead. I signed it. The email confirmation came back almost instantly. Welcome aboard, Daniel. Tomorrow changes everything. I closed the laptop and sat there a long moment, feeling the weight of what I'd just done settle into my chest, not as triumph, but as something quieter and heavier. When I finally went upstairs, Vanessa was already asleep, one arm draped over my side of the bed like she used to when things were simple between us. Her face looked soft in the dark, unguarded in a way she never let herself be during the day anymore. I stood in the doorway a long time, just looking at her. I didn't feel hatred. I searched for it, honestly, thinking it might make tomorrow easier. It never came. What I felt was grief, plain and heavy, for the woman who used to stay up late helping me debug code, just to keep me company for the marriage that used to feel like a team instead of competition. I climbed into bed beside her, careful not to wake her, and stared at the ceiling until the numbers on the clock blurred together. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, I just let myself miss her one last time. Vanessa made dinner that night, something she hadn't done in months. Candles, even. For a moment, sitting there, it almost felt like before. Grant thinks we could double our client base by next year, she said, twirling pasta around her fork. He's already talking to 2 new investors. That's ambitious, I said. He just gets it, you know? The vision. The energy. It's refreshing. I kept my face still. Sounds like he's become a big part of your plans, I said. He's become a big part of a lot of things, she said, smiling in a way that used to be reserved for me. I didn't answer that. I just nodded and let her keep talking about board approvals and marketing pushes, about a future she was building that no longer had a place for me in it, though she didn't seem to notice she was saying that out loud. Later, I found Sophie in the parking garage, both of us leaving at the same time. Can I say something honestly? She said. Always. I don't think Vanessa even realizes what's happening to her, Sophie said. Grant compliments everything. Her decisions, her ideas, even her outfits in these little sideways comments. I think she's enjoying being told she's brilliant more than she realizes. That's not love, I said quietly. That's flattery. I know, Sophie said. I just don't think she can tell the difference right now. I drove to my mother's house after that, needing somewhere steady to sit for an hour. You look tired in a different way tonight, Ellen said, handing me tea I didn't ask for. I'm signing the papers tonight, I said. With Richard. She sat across from me, quiet for a moment. How does that feel? Like grief, honestly. Not anger anymore. Just grief. That's how you know you're doing it right, she said. Anger makes people cruel. Grief just makes them honest. Walking away isn't revenge, Daniel. It's self-respect. Don't let anger poison something that should be done with dignity. I won't, I said. Promise me, she said. Whatever happens tomorrow, whatever happens after, you do this with your head high, not your fists swinging. I promise, I said. I got home before Vanessa finished her shower, sat down at the kitchen table, and opened my email. Richard's final agreement sat there, waiting for one signature. I read it one more time. Equity. Leadership. A real seat at a real table. Everything this company used to promise me before it decided I was overhead. I signed it. The email confirmation came back almost instantly. Welcome aboard, Daniel. Tomorrow changes everything. I closed the laptop and sat there a long moment, feeling the weight of what I'd just done settle into my chest, not as triumph, but as something quieter and heavier. When I finally went upstairs, Vanessa was already asleep, one arm draped over my side of the bed like she used to when things were simple between us. Her face looked soft in the dark, unguarded in a way she never let herself be during the day anymore. I stood in the doorway a long time, just looking at her. I didn't feel hatred. I searched for it, honestly, thinking it might make tomorrow easier. It never came. What I felt was grief, plain and heavy, for the woman who used to stay up late helping me debug code, just to keep me company for the marriage that used to feel like a team instead of competition. I climbed into bed beside her, careful not to wake her, and stared at the ceiling until the numbers on the clock blurred together. Tomorrow, everything would change. Tonight, I just let myself miss her one last time. Vanessa called 11 times before I finally picked up. Daniel, thank God, she said, her voice cracking. Please, we need to talk. I'm listening, I said. Everything is falling apart. The systems, the clients, the board. I need you to come back. I'll give you your office back. Any office. Whatever you want. Whatever I want, I repeated. Yes, anything. 3 weeks ago, I wanted a conversation, I said. I wanted you to notice I was standing in a hallway humiliated. That's what I wanted. I know, she said. I know, and I'm sorry. Please, Daniel, the clients are threatening to leave. Whitfield is talking about pulling funding. I stayed quiet for a moment, letting the silence do what my words used to do. I signed with Richard Voss 2 nights ago. I said finally. It's done, Vanessa. There was a long pause on the line. You went to Richard, she said, her voice hollow. He respected what I built, I said. That's more than I can say for the people who called it legacy overhead. That wasn't me, she said quickly. That was Grant's phrase. You approved it, I said. That's the part that matters. She didn't have an answer for that. James Whitfield called an hour later, his tone entirely different from Vanessa's panic. Controlled. Direct. Daniel, he said, I'll be honest with you. I underestimated exactly how much walked out that door with you and your team. I appreciate you saying that, I said. Is there anything that would bring you back? Compensation, title, autonomy. I'm prepared to discuss real terms. I already have real terms, I said. Equity, leadership, a team that trusts me. I'm not walking away from that for a better desk. Whitfield exhaled slowly. Fair enough, he said. For what it's worth, this should never have gotten to this point. No, I said. It shouldn't have. By the end of the week, the story was everywhere in our industry circles. A trade publication ran a piece about the mass resignation, calling it one of the most significant technical exoduses of the year. Another article, published just 2 days later, announced Richard's company's new Advanced Systems division, quietly built around, as the piece put it, an experienced team with deep institutional knowledge. Nobody needed to say my name for people to understand exactly what had happened. Sophie called me the night of the emergency board meeting, her voice steady in a way I hadn't heard before. Grant tried to blame sabotage, she said. Sabotage? He told the board someone must have intentionally corrupted the documentation before leaving, to make the team look irreplaceable, she said. He actually said the word irreplaceable, Daniel, like that wasn't the whole problem. What happened? I stood up, Sophie said. You did? I told him the truth, that I'd seen him take credit for your projects for months, that I heard him call the technical team legacy overhead in a meeting he didn't think anyone outside leadership would ever hear about, that there was no sabotage, just people finally leaving somewhere that stopped valuing them. I felt something shift in my chest, something that had been braced for disappointment finally allowed to relax. How did the board react? I asked. Whitfield asked Grant to leave the room, Sophie said. I don't think he's coming back from this one. Thank you for saying something, I said. That couldn't have been easy. It was the easiest thing I've done all year, she said. I just wish I'd said it sooner. After we hung up, I sat in Richard's office, looking out over a floor full of familiar faces working with an energy I hadn't seen in months. Marcus caught my eye and gave a small nod, the kind that didn't need any words attached to it. I thought about the hallway I'd stood in weeks ago, humiliated and silent while people watched. This felt like the opposite of that moment, and I didn't need to raise my voice once to get here. Vanessa showed up at my new office on a Thursday afternoon. No assistant, no phone in her hand, just her standing quietly at the front desk asking if I had a few minutes. I told the receptionist to let her back. She looked smaller somehow, standing in the doorway of an office that wasn't mine to take from her. Nice space, she said, glancing around. Thanks, I said. Sit down. She sat, hands folded in her lap. None of the sharp confidence I remembered from that first Monday morning. I'm not here about the company, she said. Whitfield's handling that. New leadership, damage control, all of it. Then why are you here? I asked. She looked up at me, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something honest in her face. I'm here about us, she said. I know I don't deserve to ask this, but is there anything left to save? I sat back, choosing my words carefully. I need you to understand something first, I said. None of this was revenge, Vanessa. I didn't do any of it to hurt you. Then why? She asked quietly. Because you stopped seeing me long before Grant ever sat in my chair, I said. That office was just the moment I finally noticed it. You'd already stopped valuing what I built. Well, I gave up. What I gave you. Her eyes filled, but she didn't look away. I know, she said. I got caught up in feeling important, in someone constantly telling me I was brilliant. I told myself it wasn't a big deal. It was a big deal, I said. Every single time. I'm sorry, she said. I don't know if that means anything anymore. It means something, I said. It just doesn't erase everything that happened. We sat in silence for a moment, the kind that used to feel unbearable between us, and now just felt honest. I didn't want revenge, I said finally. I wanted to matter to you the way this company mattered to you. When I realized I never would, I stopped trying to force it, and I built something else instead. Real karma isn't loud, I added. It's not some big dramatic moment. It's just consequences finally catching up to choices people made when they thought no one was paying attention. She wiped her eyes, nodding slowly. I don't know what to ask for anymore, she said. You don't have to ask for anything today, I said. Go rebuild your company. Figure out who you want to be without someone like Grant whispering in your ear. If there's something left between us after that, we'll find out honestly, not because I walked back into an office you gave away. She stood slowly, pausing at the door. For what it's worth, she said, you are always more valuable than I let you know. I know, I said. I just needed to hear for myself first. After she left, I stood at the window of my new office, watching the floor below. Marcus was debugging something with Tom, laughing at whatever had gone wrong. Priya waved up at me before turning back to her monitor, completely at ease in a way none of us had been in months. I thought about the man who stood humiliated in a hallway, silent while everyone watched him lose everything he'd built. That man was gone now. In his place stood someone who finally understood his own worth, not because someone handed it back to him, but because he'd walked away and built it himself. Whatever happened with Vanessa next, I would face it as that man, not the one who was replaced, the one who chose himself.